Hello everyone, we are back after a gap, so you're not being able to keep up with the videos as we would like, but we listen to you, and then we are here to address some change. I know there is a lot of rumors, a lot of people talking about Canadian immigration, and this is the reason we are here today, try to address some of those changes, maybe clarify them for you. So I have Craig here. Craig is gonna help me out with more technical information. And so changes, right? There is so many changes. Mark Miller, or minister, was talking about, so was in all medias, and we got a lot of questions, a lot of people calling us and try to understand what's going on. What should I do now? What is the change?
Yeah, so about 2 weeks ago, maybe less than 2 weeks ago, big announcement about PGWP eligibility, about Spousal Open Work Permits, study permits, all of these things announced all at one time.
Yeah, definitely it seems a lot. So what I would like to say, it's like Canadian immigration in certain way has always been like that, so that it's always changed. What we have today is not what we had like 5 years ago, and probably in the near future it's gonna have more change. So it's always looking for this to adapt the immigration needs to what exactly we are facing as a country on economy, growth of population, and I think change it's normal in immigration. So what we have to reframe and reassess is how we're gonna deal with those changes. Am I prepared? So now it's the right moment to take this step or not? Should I wait a little bit more? Should I change my plans? So
yeah, it's you mentioning change and how it's always been a factor is important, because just as one example, a lot of people don't realize that the whole express entry system is not an old system. It was developed, or it was introduced in 2015, so less than 10 years ago, and at that time a valid job offer was worth 600 points. So that would have guaranteed an invitation. But express entry by itself, so it's always changing, it's always adapting depending on what the government needs economically. So people may not want to hear it, but for economic immigration, it's designed to benefit the country, not necessarily the foreign national coming to Canada. It doesn't need to be zero sum. It could also benefit the foreign national, but first and foremost, it's depending on what the country needs.
Yeah, I think in the end, it has to benefit both, right? Otherwise,
ideally, yes.
But otherwise, no worker would willing to come or to apply for the immigration if they are not getting a benefit from that. We don't know exactly which benefit is going to be. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's just a job offer and stay temporarily. And sometimes it's the ultimate goal as the PR, so stay permanently, right? We don't know. So I guess one of the messages we would like to share here is like, because of those changes, it doesn't mean that immigration in Canada is closing down, is shutting its doors. That's not true. It's like adapting, adjusting. So maybe some options are not that attractive anymore, but at the same time, other ones are still open and available.
Yep. And just off the top of my head, as everyone has probably already read, the big change is that can benefit people in demand occupations and industries, healthcare workers, transport workers, skilled trades, construction, that kind of thing, all in demand. If someone's background is related to that, they may have an easy way in. Whereas for people waiting for a general draw under CEC, the scores are just unbelievable right now, so it may be extremely difficult.
Yeah, that is a really good point, because once you have the right skills for that time,
Yep.
which it's now.
Yep.
So you still can count on it. But if you don't have, it doesn't mean it is impossible for you. But of course, you're gonna have to reassess. You're gonna have to reevaluate your choices, and we are here to help, try to clarify. Of course, we're gonna talk in a more general way. We cannot address someone's specific profile, and for everyone it's going to be different, right? And if you allow me, I would like to start to jump on this post-graduation work permit.
Sure.
Because everyone's talking about, everyone's kind of had that plan. Okay, I'm going to go to Canada. I'm going to college. So 2 years degree. Then I'm going to get the post-graduation work permit for 3 years. Then I'm going to build this pathway to my PR. No, it's not like that anymore, right?
Yeah, it's sort of, with these changes, it kind of emphasizes, I think, IRCC trying to emphasize the temporary nature of study and work in Canada. So a study permit is to study temporarily in Canada. You're supposed to study to further your career when you leave Canada. But then the PGWP was introduced as a way to stay a bit longer in Canada and work, get some experience, but still leave after the work permit expires. And now they seem to be saying, okay, the study permit, if you study in Canada, it's not a guarantee to get a PGWP anymore.
Okay.
You need to have the right background to match what the economy needs.
So to be clear, you still are going to be able to work while you study, which is a benefit to study in Canada, right?
Yep.
So you have hours limitation. So
Yep. So that's, nothing has changed for that. It's still 20 hours a week. As long as you're studying full time and your study permit allows you to work.
what is changing now, it's not for everyone that completes a degree on the college that's going to be able to apply for those extra 3 years full-time work.
Yes. So with this change, IRCC has made a line between universities and colleges. In Canada, generally, a university is an institution that can legally offer a degree program, bachelor's, master's, PhD. Colleges cannot offer those.
Okay.
Regardless of whether it's a public school or private school is not really the question here, but most private schools are colleges. They're not legally allowed to offer a degree program. So with this change, IRCC is giving more leniency, flexibility to university graduates compared to college graduates.
Oh, I see. Yeah, definitely everyone that has a plan to study in Canada now has to think twice. So am I doing the right choice for my profile? Can I fulfill those requirements, those new requirements? So these changes are going to be implemented on November 1st, 2024.
Yeah.
So everyone that's going to apply for a student permit on November 1st or beyond, it's going to have to adapt to this.
Yes. So starting from November 1st, if you study in a university at the bachelor's, master's, and PhD level program, essentially nothing major will change for you. You can study any subject. There's a language requirement, which we'll get to, but there's more flexibility for study for students at that level.
Okay.
But if they're going to a certificate program, a diploma program, that's where the challenges come in, because now they'll be subject to fields of study, a restriction, which is the first time IRCC has implemented this for PGWPs. As we know, they used to be open for any graduates from an eligible program. Now it's not only eligible program, it's also plus eligible field of study.
Okay, can you just clarify that, which means maybe give an example?
Sure. So say you want to study business management. If you did a Master of Business Administration, MBA, that's a master's degree program, you would not be subject to this restriction on field of study. But if it was, say, a 2-year post-secondary diploma level program, you would no longer be eligible for a PGWP at all.
Okay. That is a game changer.
It is for a lot of people. As you said, people will have to reevaluate their plan. If they want to immigrate, they can still come to study, but they need to start at the very beginning and plan carefully according to what these new restrictions are.
So, Greg, you mentioned about the language requirement, and that is a change on that. So we got a lot of questions, a lot of messages, people worrying about, okay, now what I have to do to get my post-graduation work permit? Do I have to, how that's going to work?
Yeah, so newly introduced is a language requirement, either English test or French test. You see IELTS General, PTE Core, CELPIP if it's English. So as of November 1st, anyone who's applying for a PGWP, regardless of level of study, regardless of field of study, everyone needs a language test. The level they need to achieve on the language test depends on what they study and what level. So if they were at a university, they need CLB 7 in all 4 areas. If they were in a college program, they need CLB 5 in all areas. So again, it's this distinction that IRCC makes, this line between universities and colleges.
Okay.
So,
yeah, no, again, for language. So what I would like to try to clarify here, because people are worried, oh, but now it's going to be harder for me. But they don't realize that enter schools, they already have to provide an English or a language test, right?
Yes, so in theory, all of these students graduating should already have at least CLB 7 anyway.
Yeah.
So CLB 5 is a very low level to meet. It's something like IELTS General 4.5, something like that.
Would be basic level language requirements, right? So if someone is in Canada, because okay, those studies can't be remote, it has to be locally here, speaking and listen and working or studying in this language for 2 years. How do you see how hard it would be for someone to get CLB 5 or CLB 7 in that situation?
In theory, it shouldn't be that hard at all,
Okay.
because even for the simplest 1-year post-secondary certificate program or diploma program, usually the entrance is already IELTS 6.0 academic. This is general, so it's supposed to be easier.
Okay. Yeah, so it is an extra layer, is an extra requirement,
It's
but
an extra expense.
extra expense, of course. But for someone that has done the study in already a foreign language, it's supposed to be okay. Supposed to be
Right. So this is, I suppose, one way for IRCC to legitimize someone's study, to say, okay, you actually came here to study, you understood what you were studying in the language, and you just proved it with this English test, basically.
And just to give another example, to be immigration consultant, even though for people that were born and raised in Canada, they still have to provide, to get the license, to provide a language test, right?
Yes.
So
I can speak from experience. And I believe now for consultants it's CLB 9.
CLB 9,
something
yes.
like that. Yeah.
It's very high, but you know it's not. My point here is just to show and say it's not uncommon in Canada have language requirements in other professions, for example.
Of course, yeah. So if you feel like you're offended because you shouldn't take this test, it has nothing to do with you. It's professions. It's, as Tom just said, it's not uncommon for some professions to require an English test from everyone, no questions about their background, if they grew up here, if they speak English as a first language.
Yeah. So yeah, don't take that personally. It's not for sure.
Yeah.
It's not. I think that is maybe we don't want to extend this too much. So let's talk about the work permit and for the spouse.
Sure.
Yes, how that's going to be affected with the change.
Yeah, so separate from the whole study permit PGWP announcement, there was also a big announcement regarding Spousal Open Work Permits, SOWP. So there were already a few changes implemented earlier this year, but now further changes are coming which will restrict the ability for spouses to get work permits. So IRCC has said that it will be, spousal open work permits will be limited to the main applicant's job in management, so tier 0, professional jobs, which generally is tier 1, and sectors with labor shortages. So you can think construction, healthcare, that kind of thing. So practically, this would mean that if the main applicant, your spouse, for example, if they have an LMIA, they're working on a work permit in Canada as a cook.
Okay.
Their spouse may not be eligible for a spousal open work permit anymore.
So we're gonna open a possibility that the spouse can accompany the worker, but not be able to work.
Yes, they could come as a visitor. While they're in Canada, they could look for their own job offer. They could look to study. But in this specific situation, they may not be able to get their own sort of dependent work permit based on their spouse's
I see.
work permit.
Yes, definitely. There is a lot of homework to be done
Yes.
to someone that is going to come as a student or a worker,
Mhm.
right? That is changed, so they have to be prepared. Maybe it's good do your own research. There is a lot of information out there. There is the government website. Talk to immigration consultant, an expert. That's going to help because now it's not straightforward. So
Yeah.
certain workers their spouse are gonna be able to have an open work permit, and other workers no.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of where the past situation with PGWPs, you study in an eligible program, you can apply. That applies to everyone. Now there will be exceptions, restrictions, and it gets more and more complicated. So we always encourage people to research and look up information themselves directly. But as all of these exceptions and restrictions and things come into play, it may be beneficial to have a consultation about that.
There is a lot of work to do, right?
There's a lot of work, even on our side too. We have to keep up with
Yeah.
this news.
So I think it's all for today. Craig, thank you very much for clarifying all those issues. And, for our listeners, I think the message that I would like to stick with them is like, Canada is not shutting down the doors for immigrants. It is adapting. So now there is more information on the table. There is more things to be looked up. There is more plan to be done. More research, more homework, definitely, but it's still possible. Would you like to give some last words to our...
I think you summed it up very nicely. It's, as you said, I can just reiterate, it's not a shutdown, it's an adaptation, it's a change for sure, but it's a change you can overcome with some careful planning. So.
Okay. That's great. If you need someone else to help you out, we are here, guys. So see you next time. Thank you very much.